to look back at the last Forge FC contest.
Simply stunning stuff! And finally, their goal!
Here is Match and Review.
My word, what a rocket!
With Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network.
Hello, Forge fans. Anthony Urciuoli with you. Final whistle. Seconds ago, Forge FC lose in heartbreaking fashion. We are live, by the way, on Twitter, on YouTube, and on Facebook. And this is instant reaction. You cannot get more instant than this. We just heard the final whistle, players shaking hands, Forge FC going down in shocking and disappointing fashion. York United with a 2-1 victory at Tim Hortons Field. And we have to dissect this one because it was something. It was something. So let's take you back. Let's go back to the beginning here. Forge and York coming out with lineups we've been accustomed to for the most part. York, though, some additions, some guys who were injured now back in the lineup, namely Mo Babuli and Jonathan Grant, who Forge fans will know. In the starting lineup for York, came out with a 4-2-3-1 formation. In an attempt to slow down that Forge midfield. On the Forge side of things, by the way, Forge FC in their alternate uniforms for this one, the black and gray. Jordan Hamilton starting up top with Borges and Chouanier, Kyle Becker, Sissoko, Hojab Rapport in the middle. And then Poku, Garva Matusala, Mandrakar James, and Rama on the back line with Tristan Henry in goal in that traditional 4-3-3 that we've become, that we've been used to see now from Forge. Started early for Forge FC. Plenty of opportunity. And that's what this match may ultimately come down to, is Forge having some opportunities early, not cashing in, York eventually finding their game, and for spurts actually played pretty well. Early on, though, 2 minutes in, Forge was buzzing. Jordan Hamilton, no look pass to David Chouanier, and Hamilton ended up with a clean header that went over the top of the goal. About a minute later, Tristan Borges had an opportunity from in close. He sent it wide. So once again, opportunities there. That final touch, that clinical finish, not quite for Forge FC. And I counted at least 3 dangerous attacks in the first 4 minutes for Forge. Midfield, very active in this one for Forge, making runs right down that center channel. At times, it looked like Forge had 5 or 6 attackers. Sissoko, very involved early. Kyle Becker, which is something you could expect. But Forge looked dangerous early, but nothing to show for it. 10-minute mark. Rizart Rama. Listen, he gets called for a handball in the area. York awarded a penalty. If you go back, and if you have an opportunity, I suggest you do so. Rama, he turns his body, arms close as they could possibly do to his own body. Ball hits him in the elbow. It should not have been a handball. There's literally nothing else he could have done. Not only does he get the call against him, he gets handed a yellow card on top of that. So, guess who? Mo Babuli steps up to the spot, takes his PK, and it is stopped by who else but Tristan Henry, coming off one of the best goalkeeper performances I've ever seen in my entire life. So still in form, Henry dives to his right, makes the stop, and we're still level. I mentioned earlier, Forge's midfield, aggressive the whole way through. Forge was on the front foot in this one. And, this looked like a derby, by the way. It was heated. The players pretty familiar with each other at this point. A lot of extracurricular in between whistles, some cards to be handed out on both sides. And I would say this, 25th minute is when York started kind of finding their game. It was all Forge up until then. Mo Babuli, though, showing his creativity as a playmaker, as a distributor. And I would say for a good 5-minute stretch, York looked, they handled possession, they controlled play. It was for a brief moment, but you had that feeling where, okay, Forge had their chances. They weren't able to capitalize. Is York now going to be able to get something going? Fortunately, during that stretch for York, fortunately for Forge, flawless defensively. No dangerous opportunities. Defensively, Mandrakar James and Garvin Matusala, rock solid in this one. So they go into half scoreless. Now, I'll read you the halftime stats. Okay. Forge had 10 shot attempts in the first half. Only one hit the target. York had 4 and 1 hit the target. Possession, 57% in favor of Forge. Pass accuracy, 88%. I mean, this is what we expect from Forge, right? Except for the fact that they didn't find the back of the net. Forge had 7 corners in that first half, and they had 10 touches in their opponent's box. So it wasn't for a lack of dangerous opportunities, lack of attempts, just could not break through. Get into the second half now. Bit of a slow start for Forge. In fact, it's York opening the scoring. 53rd minute, Forge just not good enough defensively. York able to attack the area. It ended up being an own goal on a bit of a broken play. Forge, though, completely disorganized. Excuse me. So Forge back. They're down now. Down 1-0, 53 minutes into this match at home. And York did not sit back like you would have expected. They played their high press. They were still pretty aggressive, at least on the defensive side of things. Forge would start making their substitutions. The ones we've been used to this. All that depth, only so many minutes to go around. Pacius comes in. Taron Campbell comes in. Ashton Morgan comes in. Out are Hamilton, Sissoko, and Poku. In the 67th minute, it's amazing what one individual effort can do to kind of spark a team. And not just a team, but the fans, which, the players can feed off of. 67th minute, Garvin Matusala. Solid defender. We're well aware of what Matusala brings to the lineup. He showed off some of his pace and his offensive game. He made a run from his defensive position, carried the ball, created a scoring opportunity, forced a corner, and after forcing the corner, he turned to the crowd and started hyping them up. And the fans just ignited. Not a ton to cheer about up to that point. Great solo effort. Matusala got the crowd going, and it made a difference. The crowd was there was just some energy in this stadium. Forge will make another substitution. Alex Session-Yodianton out. Hojab Rapport in. 76th minute. Kyle Becker doing what he does. The most perfect delivery you could have asked for with his left foot from the left side of the box. Taron Campbell, patient, backpedals, turns his body, adjusts in the air. Very difficult to do, especially with defenders on you. He gets up and calmly, confidently connects with his head, and the ball bounces inside the post. So we are even. It's 1-1. Right after that, about a minute later, Forge with a golden opportunity. And this may ultimately, maybe not may. I think this ultimately comes down to Forge just not taking advantage of the opportunities they had. Because it went from Campbell. He dropped it off to Matusala, who delivered the ball right on the foot of Pacius. All he had to do was turn his foot and redirect it. He did that only, and I mean, he was, I want to say, 12 yards from goal. He deflected it with his foot, just bounced wide. And you had that again. Sometimes you get those feelings. Those opportunities, even for Forge, they don't come. No team can expect opportunities like that very often. Forge got it. They didn't capitalize. And then you could hear, if you were in Hamilton at around, 9 o'clock or so, you would have heard hearts just shattering at Tim Hortons Field. Samaro for York in the 94th minute A beautiful goal. I mean, this was from I tried to do the math in my head, trying to like look at the lines, the old the CFL lines that are on the field to see how far away. It looked like about 35 yards out. An absolute perfect shot, an absolute rocket. Nothing Tristan Henry could do. Goes top corner. And just like that, I have no more notes left because that was the end of the match. A match, the story, missed opportunity for Forge FC, and York capitalized on the ones they had. We'll go through the stats here. At the conclusion of the match, first half, Forge very much in control. And, well, I mean, here you go. This is actually my first time looking at the stats, but expected goals at the conclusion of this match, York 1.11, Forge 2.08. So Forge underperforming based on what they're expected. Essentially, the way this game went, without looking at the final score, just based on expected goals, and of course that's calculated by high danger chances, where the shots are coming from, basically shots that should have gone in but didn't. And based on that alone, Forge should have won this game 2-1 based on the expected goals, 2.08 to 1.11. And it went the complete opposite way. Forge, again, just not clinical enough. Ball possession ends in Forge's favor at 56%. They're at 55% for the second half. Shot attempts, 17 for Forge. Right, they had 7 in the second half, 10 in the first. But shots on target, 3-3. And corners, I mean, look at the corner kicks, 11-1 in favor of Forge FC. So dangerous attacks even. Just when I think there aren't enough stats to really paint the picture here, here's another one. So total attacks, 117 to 56 for Forge. Dangerous attacks, 78 to 24. It is what it is. York came in, they got their result away from home. A club that's kind of feeling it lately. They've been in form, the best they've played all season. They're healthy now. This is a match that Forge should have won, didn't. And York will take their 3 points and they'll go home. As far as the overall table now, York moves, by the way, with that win, York moves into second place on the CPL table. They're just 3 points back of Forge, which is remarkable considering they didn't get their first win up until a couple of weeks ago. And that's Forge's first loss. So York, 4 wins, 4 losses. Forge, 4 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. And ultimately, York now within striking distance, just 3 points back of Forge FC. Yeah, there's your story. Pacific, 3 points back of Forge, but they do have a game in hand. So Forge in danger of losing that top spot outright. So at the very worst for Forge, they will be even with Pacific at the end of this week. So there's your final. From Tim Hortons Field, Forge FC 1, York United 2. They come in and highway 403 robbery for York United, and they walk away with 3 points. Not a ton of time for Forge to dwell on this one, though, because they're in the midst of 4 matches in 11 days. They've played 3 of them. The 4th goes this weekend out west-ish, right, against Calvary at 4:00 Eastern time. That's on Saturday. I don't know how many of you are making the trip to Calgary. It's quite the trek. If not, you can, of course, watch on One Soccer. And most importantly, you can track the game with us because we're doing live post-game shows now. Immediate, instant reaction. You hear the final whistle, go on the Forge Facebook page, the Twitter page, and the Forge YouTube channel, and you will get us live, giving you the full breakdown of the match that just occurred. And before we get to that even, we'll get you ready for Calvary. There'll be a match day preview, 3 keys to the match. There are so many different avenues to go down to get your full Forge coverage, but we have it all. Social media, YouTube, and podcasts, the Forge Audio Network. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Once again, 2-1. York on top at Tim Hortons Field. We'll talk to you very soon.
This has been Match in Review with Anthony Urciuoli on the Forge Audio Network. For the latest on all things Forge FC, subscribe on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.